Okay, thank you. Yes, I do want to record this. So I'm going to go to my screen share, bring up the case study for Tesla. And when I click on that link, it takes me to Tesla. Its default is 1 year. Is the right screen showing up now?
Yeah, we're looking at the Yahoo page.
Yeah, you're on the Yahoo page now. Okay. So first thing you have to do is change the time period to 5 years. And then you want historical prices, which it defaulted to. And the frequency you want to change from daily to monthly, because we're comparing month-to-month results. Apply that. And then simply download it. Okay.
So on the thing, it said to, excuse me, go from June 1st, 2015 to June 1st, 2020. So we don't want that. We just want 5 years, right?
Yeah, you want 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, because on the instructions, it said different. Sorry.
Oh, did it say 60 months?
It said closing stock price from 6/1/2015 to 6/1/2020. Download the information into Excel. There should be 60 data rows.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can do that. You'd get the same result, but that doesn't need to be more current, which would be the last 5 years. So I will change that. I want historical prices, and then I want monthly. And I apply that, get the download. Okay. Share. Now I'm going to share the download. Okay, so the download's going to look like this. You see that it's got more columns than we want. We only want the adjusted close, the last column. So you're simply going to delete those columns. If I can grab my bar. There we go. And then delete this last column. And then you've got 60 months here, so you just copy that into the template. Okay, so in the template, you've got 2 pages in the template. So in the template, I'm going to paste my values in. Okay. And then it does all the calculations. The first one will be NA because it's not. And the last one may be, no, that one's good. Okay. So in this, once you do that, it's doing all the calculations for you for the 60 months. And it came out right with 60 months. And it gives you a histogram. And then the closing value, a different angle of the histogram, comparing the trend. Okay. Then on the second page, you just go in and put your parameters. And then it's going to give you a number for value at risk and the value of the portfolio. So what you're looking for is the value at risk going to yield the results that you want? So I'm going to, well, I don't have those values in there. So, okay, so it's going to give you the value of the portfolio, the minimum return, and the value at risk. And from those is how you'll determine whether or not it's a buy. Whether or not he's going to yield more than he's investing in it.
And that's how we answer question 4.
Pardon?
And that's how we would answer question 4.
Yeah, that's how you'd answer the question 4.
Okay. So when we copy and paste both graphs, are we copying and pasting the parameters as well as the calculations graph, or just 2 graphs?
No, I don't need the calculation graph, but I do need the parameters and the calculations. So I can see that work, and then copy the graphs into your text.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, then let's see, I've got a sample here somewhere.
Yeah, the samples really help a lot, I think,
Oh,
because
good.
it shows
you.
kind of what you're looking for, you know?
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna bring up another student's paper, I think.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to go back. Can you show me how you got the numbers for the parameters part?
They're in the question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it gives you each one. So all you're doing is just plugging those into it.
Courtney, it was number 3.
Okay, what was that question? Oh, okay, good. So this is a sample of a paper. What she did here is she explained the situation in the first of it. Then she explained the significance of value at risk.
I don't know if you mean to be sharing, but we can't say anything right now.
What's that? Oh, you're not seeing it? Okay. Yeah, I do
No,
mean to
sir.
be sharing. Yeah. Thank you. No, it's not showing up on mine. Here it is. I got a lot of windows open right now. Okay. So, so he went through the process of explaining what the value at risk calculation meant. And this is how he's going to know his answers, because he understands the concept. Okay. He also does point out that value of risk is not the only, which is a good caveat to use anytime you're making a presentation to senior management, is to say, given what we're known, and this is what you want to do. Now, Mr. Young's only question was, based on value at risk, should I make this decision? And so he went in and explained, well, you know, you can do that, but there are other factors to consider. But based on the parameters you gave me, the value at risk says yes or no. So it's okay to put caveats, and it does show that you understand that it's not an absolute answer. It is only one piece of the decision process, but that's all Mr. Young asked for. He just asked for the recommendation based on the value of risk. There's a link too in the within the question to value at risk, and so that will help you get a little bit more information on the concept to understand whether or not your result indicates a yes or a no. Okay, and then he put in his graphs, and then his conclusion was a yes or no conclusion. And that's it. There's not a whole lot to this. It's not a, it's a pretty straightforward question.
Would
and it-
you want us to go into depth as how he did instead of just answering a yes or no question?
Oh, absolutely. I want to know why you made that recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And back it up with an understanding of, based on the concept behind value at risk, this is what I recommend. So yes, I do want you to go into depth.
And-
And-
Okay.
And it's okay to use that information, but you gotta put it in quotes. If it's word for word from the text, you gotta put it in quotes.
Oh, I learned my lesson.
I wasn't gonna
I-
say anything.
Jaquera,
I have
I
learned
did
my
too.
lesson.
I learned my lesson too, so don't think you're the only one. My graphs look a little different than these, is that?
They would.
okay?
They would,
Okay.
because he had a different time a time period, and he had a different parameters.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr.
I understand too where citation can be, innocently misrepresented, and that's not your intent. I know that, because violation of a copyright law is a federal offense. It's pretty, so, you can't go into a courtroom and say, oh, I made a mistake.
Right.
Can we go over the team project again about what's due? Not this week, but I guess the following Sunday?
For the team paper,
Yeah,
okay. Let me get on to this.
Oh, I also have a question about that. I do see on the syllabus that the PowerPoint that's extra credit, right?
Yeah, I do have an opportunity for every one that wants some extra credit, is to take the team's work and put it into a PowerPoint slide presentation that's narrated. And if you're familiar with PowerPoint, exporting it to a video is just, a click of a button. So you narrate the slide as if you were presenting it to an audience.
and
And
is
then-
that individual or is that a team as a group?
No, it's individual is how I intended it. So the team's got to decide who they want to do that. Actually, we need some extra points for a couple of us. So let's make it available to everybody.
Okay. So only one person from the team narrates, but we can all get together to create the PowerPoint.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how you do it. Yeah, the person putting together once he takes all the slides that he's going to use. So that person who's doing that has to go through the presentation and take out the highlights as you would in a PowerPoint presentation. Instead of the text, you're just going to have bullet items. And then you're going to explain you're going to explain what made up a risk profile, where you started. And where you start is making a risk profile. And everybody's doing a good job at categorizing it because you do that in the first step of the risk profile, and that's just a matrix that provides just a pictorial or image representation of where all the risks are coming from. And then those will drive your risk map and your fishbone diagram. Does everybody understand the difference between a risk map and a fishbone?
Yes. Okay, so
Okay.
those are the two charts that we are to include within the paper, the
Yep.
risk map and the fishbone.
Yeah, at the minimum. And the risk list, the profile, which will just be it will be inserting a table into your paper, and then completing that with the major areas of risk and then the sub areas of risk after that.
So
And-
is this, are we
Yeah.
doing it in the format of a risk management plan with the specific
Yeah.
risks and how to mitigate them?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you'll see that the book gives you generic. It doesn't give you specific. So you have to interpret the generic. So when it says operational risks, or it may say weather risks, hurricane's gonna be here. But in Missouri, you're not going to have that as a risk. So the risks have to be specific to your particular company. And I would imagine that cybersecurity risk does affect everybody now. And Olin is here, and he did a great job of his risk list profile. Because he define the major categories, which are going to be headers in your risk map, and it's going to be the headers that drive the cause and effect analysis, the fishbone. Olin, did you have any questions about the list you guys put together?
Are you talking about for the team project?
Yeah, the team project, right?
No, I think we're in a pretty good spot for the project right now.
Yeah, I think you guys are in pretty good shape. You're down the road with that.
So for each risk that we have, other than the risk map, do we need to like put the severity of each risk
Yes.
as we're discussing it throughout the,
Yeah.
okay.
That would come after the profile. You wouldn't do the severity and the likelihood. So there's actually two values, because in your risk map, you're going to have 4 quadrants. Unlikely, low impact. Very likely, low impact. Highly likely, high impact. And the last one would be highly likely, low impact. And that would be how the risk map would fall out of that. Let's see. Share. Okay, I'm going to go back to the project deliverables for next week.
Will you have a sample of what the project will look like for that?
I've sent samples out that were edited, that were very brief. We can.
Because I think I misunderstood. I thought we were supposed to be doing a risk management plan, but Courtney said, because I apologize, I wasn't able to make the
Yeah, no
one
problem.
Saturday because I was out of town, but she said we need to do more like the fishbone diagrams and stuff like that, not
well,
so
you-
much
you-
a plan.
No, you have to do both. Because you have to have that information to put in a plan, because you're going to have risk treatments. So the first steps would be the risk profile, the risk map, then the fishbone diagram. And on the fishbone, if you just want to take one area, because you know you'll have the fishbone will have 5 or 6 generalized areas. If you just want to take one and drill it down to a level and just focus on those treatments, that's fine. You
So
don't
we
have-
need a scope for like the risk management plan where you have to have a scope what you're working on?
What was that again?
Like in a risk management plan, you have a scope of work and then you detail what you're doing in it?
Doesn't have
That's why I
to,
was wondering if we
yeah,
want
it
an
doesn't have to be
example,
that much
so-
detail, but you do have to put recommendations for the treatments on the most severe. Let's see, see if I can bring up. Okay, is the class showing up on yours now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we're down to week 6, which would be the risk map and matrix. The matrix, the matrix is just columns and rows. Then from the risk areas, identify one important problem, and that's the one I want you to go through in detail. Just one example.
This is the fishbone and force field analysis, right?
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention the force field analysis. That should be in there too. But for the risk plan, just make it focused on one area. It could be the hurricane response plan. And most of the organizations are going to have, you'll be able to access their risk management page, particularly for the larger corporations.
Okay,
So-
so I want to understand because we divided ours in, I guess, 4 different risks. So you want one overall topic, and we're
Right.
just breaking down that topic in the 5 categories that are listed: the risk, the impact, likelihood, potential mitigation.
Now you have to do all those. You have to do all those to know which one you're going to focus on. The one that represents the most risk. So you actually have to do everything. To week 6, which is a root cause analysis on only one of the areas.
So for the actual paper, do you want us to focus on the risk plan for one identified risk, or do you want us to touch basis on the 5 categories and the 10 individual risks that were identified?
If I understand the question, for the detail, for example, you could do a root cause analysis only on one risk area. The reason for going through the tables and the risk map is to identify which area you should be focusing on. And then that's the one you'd pick to do an in-depth root cause analysis.
And you want us to pick the most impactful or the most likely?
The one you can find the most data on.
Okay, so really the first couple steps is really kind of just to help us break things out and try to identify the best area to write the actual paper on.
Exactly right.
10-4.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, let's see, I'm trying to think of how that will,
Because like the risk plan from the PMP, the PMBOK book, it has where you do the scope, then you do the the method of it, and then you break it down to your different risks. You put your risk impact in there.
if you
I
follow PIMBOK to the letter on one of the risk areas, you would definitely get an A on this class.
Yeah, because I had, the last class I had was the project management class, and we had to do a risk plan, as we had to like take each one down and do a risk management plan, and
Yeah.
that you broke everything out.
Yeah. I don't want you to get lost in a wide scope of it, but I do want to see that you actually know the process. And if you look back at all the case studies we've had, they talked about things that you had to do to integrate that enterprise risk management plan into the company. So all the prior case histories, you can find examples in each one of those of things that you could emulate in your recommendation to this company, including the training, the accountabilities, the measurements, the performance reviews. In other words, how much is their paycheck really affected by their compliance with the risk management? Well, for the oil company, it wasn't very significant, so it didn't get a lot of attention. At Lego, it was very significant.
So like, here's an example. So let's say the risk management plan for our team is the housing authority. So the scope would be, is what we want to focus on is maybe hurricane preparedness. So what we would do is go through and give the roles and the responsibility of
Yeah.
who's doing what. Then you go through and give the different risk. Is it going to hit us? Is it not going to hit us?
Yes.
And then we do the fishbone analysis. So
Mhm.
then we break each one down that way.
Yeah, that would be workable. Another one for them is the funding risk that they have, because that is always a risk for any nonprofit.
Yeah, and that's part of the risk breakdown is your finance, your time
Yeah,
management, your, stuff like that.
yeah, and most of those grants and that they do get come with contingencies, that they have a sustainability plan in place, that the funding will be for a limited time, and after that, you have to be self-sufficient. So the sustainability plan is, how are we going to generate these funds in a different way? And that kind of verbiage that you use in your grant applications are going to help you get that grant.
So, and then we would be like a disaster recovery, you would give that information too?
Yeah, which is for a hurricane, it's going to include your computer systems. It's including having backups offsite, which most people do routinely anyway. At the bank, my IT director had to carry a big suitcase out with him, and it went home with him.
But the whole paper is just one. Am I muted?
Yeah, for
One topic, right?
Yeah, for the risk management plan, you only have to look at one thing.
Okay.
And another thing to look up is see what kind of lawsuits they've had in the past. I know there's the housing authorities are being sued by developers right now because they're arguing that they didn't comply with the terms of the agreement. So I definitely look at any case studies, and those are pretty easy to find. Just say lawsuits, you know, Florida Housing Association.
And are we able to see an example just to see how the graphs were incorporated within the paper itself?
Yeah. Yeah, because the graphs are gonna are in the risk map are gonna tell you really what are the areas that you want to concentrate on. So basically what it gets down to is doing a risk assessment for the entire company and then a risk management plan for one specific risk. Because I only need to see one example to know whether or not you understand the concept. I don't need to see them all.
Professor, can you repeat that one more time? You said that you want us to do a risk assessment for the entire company, but then focus on only one.
Right, exactly. So when you get down to the risk map and matrix, you're going to do that for all areas. But to do a root cause analysis, you only need to look at one area, and then what recommendations you make to improve the enterprise resource management program. And this week, if you want to submit me a draft, I'd be glad to look at it and give you my feedback. Because next week's really our last week, because week 8 is very short.
Speaking of sending in like a draft, if with the Tesla, could we send in a draft before Sunday or no?
No, that's fine. So yeah, if you spread out the work for me, that helps me too.
Okay.
What if we can't get you a draft of the paper this week? Can we possibly get it to you before our meeting next Wednesday?
Yeah, I don't plan on having a meeting next Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
But get it to me as soon as you can, and I'll get your feedback
Okay.
before its due date. Because week 7 is going to be the last week, because week 8 you're doing another paper, and I'm not sure we may not have a discussion in week 8 either. So, Tammy, I think you guys are on track. I know Owen's team's on track. How about you, Courtney? How's your team doing?
Tammy, Jakayla, and I are on the same team.
Oh, okay. Well, man, just follow Tammy's lead. You'll be fine.
Yes.
Tammy, can you be on my team? Just kidding, Tammy.
Are you going to show us a sample of the team project so we can see, even if it's like
Sure.
not everything, just a little bit?
Sure, I'll pull up something for you.
I'm definitely a little lost on the team project, but I'm hoping that we can pull it together this week.
I have no doubt. Let's see. Hmm. Let's see, I'm looking for an example. Hmm. Oh, this will be very helpful for you. Um, is the Ford Motor Company coming up for you?
Yes.
Okay, this is an excellent example because you can see the progression of the process, which starts at risk profile, then they identify the risk events, then they develop a risk map, and from there they do their root cause analysis, and then they quantified the magnitude of the risk. They suggested alternatives and then final recommendation, and then their conclusion and their. So they give some background information on Ford. Their only mistake is they did it on national instead of local, but they did a pretty good job. Okay, so you can see they did their risk profile first and just listed what were major significant risks in their profile. That's just to get your start. As you can see, theirs got a little unwieldy because it was so large. Okay. Risk events, they actually went in and looked at the history of where they did have exposure to risk to take into consideration in their future. So if you can find past events, and it's going to be easy to find because COVID was one that definitely affected every business, and it affected them differently, but a lot of businesses just shut down completely. Okay, so theirs was rather long because they did have it too broad. Okay. Okay, then here's their risk map. So they took all the risks and put them on a risk map number, and that was their ranking for the risk. And here's the legend. So the number one risk was airbags in their case. They were facing huge lawsuits. Okay, their root cause analysis, they went in, got the history related to some of the challenges that they faced as a company. And then the qualitative risk, what they did is went and looked at the law, saw what the liabilities were. And in this case, it was not only liability of Ford, but it was also of their business partners. Okay, so they just listed some alternatives and their final recommendation. I can tell you, Audi, for example, does twice as many safety checks on their cars before they ship them to the United States. And their rationale was because because the US was such a litigious society that they had to be extra cautious about their safety checks.
So the
So-
only thing this paper did not have is the fish bone, correct?
Right, that's right. And it's too broad. And that should have been, when they got to the root cause analysis, that should have been in there.
I also didn't see the force field analysis. Do we need that?
The what analysis?
Isn't it force?
Oh, yeah, the force. Yeah, I would put the force field analysis, yeah.
Professor, do you mind sharing that example with us on our course?
Let me see. Yeah, it's not the best example, but yeah, I'll put that up.
Thank you.
I will do that. Mainly because I like the table of contents. That gives you a pretty good idea of what the components are.
But this is the structure that we need to stick to, right?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, this, and the table of contents kind of give you that structure as your first background about the company, the risk profile, to say what risks are specific to this company. Risk events are things that actually have happened in the past, which will help you do the risk map. And they had a root cause, but they didn't include a fishbone in that. They should have. But yeah, I'll put that up there. This is fine. Fortunately, this class is not trying to do. I'll take the names out. Okay, but I can do that.
Thank you. That kind of gives me an idea of which direction we should go. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah. This is not the best example, but it's not a bad one either.
I'll take it.
All right, anything that can help, I'm all for it. Okay. Everybody good? Tesla's not too bad. Actually, most people have problems with the Excel using that. but
Excel is actually easier with the spreadsheet.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And then where it's, okay, so on the one introduction to value at risk. Okay, so are we doing the historical method? So that's the one that we should follow, right?
Yeah. That's, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because there's more in that historical record than just the value at risk. Now, the decision is just the value at risk, but in that historical record, you will be able to see the swings. You'll be able to see how often they were. You'll be able to count how many times it was a negative and how many times it was a positive, how large those swings were. So yeah, there's a lot of indicators in that history that you should look at.